This mutation is called Out of Order, and it is being played on the Vermillion Problem. We have 3 mutators active. We have microtransactions, we have time warp, and we have darkness. So let us have a look at the masteries. While the players get set up, you will notice that the ally is unknown. This is going to be a mutation solo, and I will actually talk a little bit about why I have requested this mutation solo. But we have a new soloer over here, Tutu, and he does have a YouTube channel. Go check him out, really good, and he does mutation solos of a lot of the weekly mutations with different commanders. He has picked 30 points into the Fenix energy regeneration, 10-20 split into the AI attack speed, AI vitality mastery, and a 27-3 split into the chrono boost, starting supply mastery. Fenix has picked the network administrator prestige, and this one is the one that improves the tactical data web. So you have 200% effectiveness increase on the tactical data web, AI unit combat cost reduced by 50%, and then your normal non-heroic units are basically very weak as a result of this prestige. And this is actually why I had requested him to send in this mutation run. I have never seen, or I have never casted a game with B2 Fenix, and this one is going to be a really fun game because I have seen B2 Fenix in action, and it is a lot of fun. So let me talk about the mutators while the first set of crystals are here. Microtransactions, probably one of the mutators that really goes against the core designs of Starcraft itself. You know, Starcraft sets itself apart from a lot of the other games in the sense that if you micro better, you are going to come out ahead in a battle, even if you are outsized by your opponent. So microtransactions, not one of my favorite mutators to play up against. It charges you every single time you choose to issue a command to a unit, and the cost of that charge really depends on the unit and the cost of that unit itself. We have time warp. This one is just going to be dropping time warps all across the map. Obviously, the safety zones are going to be excluded from these time warps, so I'll try and show you one of these time warps in action. And then darkness. And one thing that's really important to note about darkness is that the crystals that spawn on the map will not be visible through the darkness mutator. So you need to know roughly where the spawn points of these crystals are. Now, if you have played Vermillion Problem, I will say this. You probably already know where the crystals are going to spawn. You may not think that right now, but I think as you play this mutation, you will have some kind of an instinct as to where these crystals will spawn. You can see here Dallas already going to town. Dallas already also preparing to go to town here against these zealots, and Dallas will start to get buffed very quickly, and he'll become really strong over the course of the game. So first crystal is available over here, second crystal over here as well. These things are going to get picked up. These are the time warps. Time warps will put everything into a slow mode while the unit is inside the time warp. So this also affects, by the way, your construction time. So if there's a time warp that hits a command center or a nexus or something that is in construction, it will also slow down that timer. And additionally, also, your timed units will also be affected by the time warp, and it will slow down the time to expiry of that unit. So it does mean that Stukov's units, while inside time warp, will actually last a little bit longer. So that is a little thing I tested on the Mythbusters series on this channel, but this is something that is available for this mutator, so you can do it as you please. So Fenix B2. You can see Dallas already being pretty strong here. Microtransactions is going to be a little bit of a problem, but remember that because Slim Pickings isn't active, which usually tends to come coupled with microtransactions, you can actually get a little bit of... You can build up your AI champion army. And you can see here, Dallas already has one shell ready, and so does Dallas. Now, one thing to note about the strategy of this game, you can see here Dallas is going to town on these dragoons here. One thing that is really important when you are playing this kind of Phoenix, so watch out for that. That might actually get them getting pulled away, and that is going to end up dying. But one thing you do note about this P2 Phoenix kind of play is you need to keep these units away from the action of the battle. The battle usually only involves Fenix plus his AI champions. The shells get moved a little bit behind so that they are not actually fighting the enemy units. You can see here the shell has pretty much no damage. It is really weak, and it has also pretty much no HP. which is something that, you know, take a look at here. Caldalis, he has, what is it, 5 times the amount of vitality, like 10 times the amount of shield and stuff. So Caldalis is actually really, really strong, but his shells aren't particularly great. So you do not want to be sending your shells into the heat of the battle, but you want to keep your shells close to your hero unit so that when the hero unit dies, you can actually utilize the newly formed hero unit at one of the shells and send them straight into the battle and take advantage of Avenging Protocol. And that is generally how P2 Fenix will play. So we have another couple of probes here that are going to go and collect the next set of crystals. And yeah, so the Darkness Mutator, as you can see, does hide where the crystals are, which is somewhat problematic if you were not aware. But if you do need to know where your spawns are for these crystals, you can visit Starcraft2Co-op's Vermillion Problem page and a list of all the spawns. I think I go to 20, I think I go up to crystal number 25 or crystal number 30 or something. So they spawn in phases of lava surges, and I think I have gone up to, I think, crystal number 30 or something along those lines. So there should be more than enough to keep you going throughout the course of this mutation. Now, that being said, this mutation isn't particularly difficult because you have microtransactions. It just naturally favors units with commanders with hero units. So commanders like Garrigan work great here. Zeratul work great. Stetman with P2 Super Gary works really nicely, especially because you have your satellites, and your satellites also provide you vision. So P2 Stetman, if you are thinking of, if you're trying to find a commander to play, P2 Stetman might be also a really great command to play here. He has a really powerful hero unit, and his satellites give you vision. Kerrigan, same idea, going for P2 Kerrigan with the Omega Worms. Omega Worms give you vision. You can go for commanders like Zeratul and place observers all over the spawn. It's not a really difficult mutation. The enemy units aren't particularly buffed, you just don't have the vision, and your microtransactions means that if you're not using an army, you are very, very well advantaged. P3 Zagara might also work really nicely. Abathur, you know, pretty much any commander can get this mutation done, but some commanders will tend to struggle a little bit. Nothing that cannot be overcome by the commanders. Now, one thing to also note about the Darkness Mutator is that the Darkness Mutator hides the attack wave ping markers, so throughout the course of the mission there may be attack waves and you may not see the attack waves on the minimap because they will not appear. You will have to have vision over key areas of the map so that you will be able to see these attack waves. Otherwise, you need to be aware of what the timings for these attack waves are and pay attention to the announcer in the mission, because your commanders will actually say when the attack wave is coming. So, you know, Fenix will say something along the lines of, you know, prepare your defenses, our foes are on the march. So they will give you the audio cues, but the visual cues in the forms of the ping markers will not be visible here. We can see that we have Warbringer and Teldaran already out, and Warbringer is drawing a little bit of aggro, so there's going to be warping of some of these units here. Talos will go ahead as well and start clear these things out. Now, generally speaking, Warbringer and Teldaran really not particularly useful against when you're playing with P2 Fenix. You can do something like a Caldalis solo with P2 Fenix and you'll be fine. But you can see here what Fenix is doing is he's not moving his entire army over. He is just using his AI champions, and he's put his AI champions into a hotkey group so that he can actually move them separately. So we have Teldaran, Talos, Fenix, Warbringer over here, and these guys will be able to take out the entirety of the enemy bases. And we have a few Phoenixes here that are going to start attacking Warbringer. Warbringer's shield is at 420 shield. Nice. So we'll need to have something here. Warbringer might actually get picked up by these Phoenixes here. Phoenix is not actually dealing with the units that have aggro this Warbringer. But generally speaking as well, you really do not need the... You do not need Warbringer and Teldaran here. They do not get as many benefits as someone like Caldalis. Caldalis is absolutely insane when it comes to the buffs that he gets from the P2 Prestige. You see here some of these conservators as well getting lifted, and they will end up getting killed off by the Phoenixes over here. So that's somewhat problematic. Okay, where did Phoenix go? Phoenix went to actually deal with his attack wave, which I guess is okay. Doing another warping of the Zealots here. You can see these Zealots not particularly strong, but we have another set of crystals over here, and these unfortunate probes are getting killed off, and there's only Talos here that is available to kill off these units. Finally, Phoenix jumps in, just clear off the rest of these units over here. But yeah, very important thing to know about this play is to keep your shells separate and to keep them away from the other damage that so they're not actually engaging the enemy units. This game is going to be pretty straightforward, so these two crystals will end up getting picked up by these probes right now. There's another time warp that comes up on top of Daldaran. Phoenix Dallas also running into the time warp over here. And now, the goal is to try and figure out where the next set of crystals are. And this is probably the phase that is going to be a little bit more tricky, is finding these where these crystals have spawned. The Phoenix is going to be combining his army right now. He needs to get all his AI champions together. Once he has his AI champions, he's going to be fine. And he's going to be able to start pushing in. Again, a few more warping. There is a conservator over here, and we have also some adepts and some legionnaires. I think I've been calling them zealots, and some of the purists will be mad at me for that. They are indeed legionnaires. And you can see these commanders just starting to cut through these units, and just see the amount of damage output that is there. And Galdalis is just swiping away at this hybrid dominator. He just cuts the hybrid dominator down. And Galdalis is pretty strong. He's going to be jumping in here. And one thing to also note is, like, if you are going for a pure Galdalis build, very important to utilize Galdalis's cleave. He has a cleave upgrade that is really, really important. I don't know if it's actually showing up over here. He might have gotten that at the first thing, but there's a cleave upgrade for Galdalis that's available in the Twilight Council, and that means that is a really important upgrade for Galdalis. The power spike that he gets from that is insane, because his cleave damage applies. He deals his damage as cleave damage, which means to all units in a certain arc. Based on the number of the legionnaires that are available. So Galdalis can pretty much solo entire enemy bases if you are playing correctly. You can see over here, Galdalis just jumping in, just two shots there, and press F for Galdalis. That hybrid dominator was having none of Galdalis, and Galdalis did end up dying over there. But now these commanders want to go, or at least Phoenix wants to go and pick up this last crystal over here. These crystals are going to be a little bit tricky to find on this particular spawn, because they can spawn in various locations, but I think Phoenix has pretty much gotten these crystals already set, and he's going to go and pick this up. One thing to also note is, remember that because attack waves are going to be hidden, you will need to be aware of the attack wave timings and roughly where they spawn, so you do not get blindsided by them. You can see Phoenix has already put down a few pylons here, and these pylons are just there to provide Phoenix with a little bit of vision. And now Galdalis is going to be jumping in to try and deal with these hybrids. So you see the amount of HP. Just look at this hybrid, just gets cut down to size. Unfortunately, the lava surge is coming up, so Phoenix will need to get his army out of position and off the low ground, which he does. And now there is one random Phoenix, but unfortunately for that Phoenix's entire army is in position. So there's one more fire breath over here. Galdalis jumping into the fray, and they're going to end up cutting down Molten Cell. So that is Molten Cell gone, and that is the bonus objective completed on this mission. So now you have to be a little bit careful. These things have tended to wrap themselves around the air blockers over here. And now the goal is to try and figure out where the next set of crystals have spawned. So there's another time where they'll come up on top of Phoenix's army. You can see here Galdalis just jumping into the heat of the battle and clearing out pretty much everything that is here. So what is the damage output for Galdalis? So he has 24 damage on his side blades right now. And I'm assuming the rest of his shells are just sitting here. Yep. So there are certain numbers of shells that are needed to maximize the strength of the tactical data web. So every single shell that you get for a unit increases the tactical data web strength for a particular unit. And most importantly, Galdalis, I think he needs 7, I think. I cannot remember what the exact number is. It's available on the Fenix page on starcraft.com, so if you are interested in getting your optimization done, there is information there on it. So Galdalis does end up dying, and this is one of the things I would like to see Phoenix do. I'd like to see him put a few of his shells on follow over here to these conservators, and that way these shells are always in position and they can take advantage of the Avenging Protocol. Now, that might help a little bit with Phoenix's mobility and be able to get him to reinforce his shells a little bit faster, because Galdalis actually becomes really, really strong when he has the Avenging Protocol. You just see the damage output here. That hybrid dominator pretty much got cut down to size just through Galdalis, and that is the benefit of having the B2 Fenix Prestige, and just being able to reinforce. Like, take a look at this Galdalis now. He's just going to be jumping in and slowly cutting these units down, and he'll be able to clear those things up very, very quickly. But just having access to being able to reinforce Galdalis really, really quickly will help a lot. And you can see here, Hybrid Dominator is going to end up going down as well. Kaldaran and Phoenix as well, dumping all his energy right there. But unfortunately, there is an attack wave over here that had not been noticed by Phoenix, I think. But Phoenix is able to clear that out without any issues. This Disruptor tries to cast a Purification Nova on top of Phoenix's hero units, but that is not going to last too long. And again, Taldaran is going to take out that Disruptor. There's Kalarian as well, Taldaran over here, and there are a few Disruptors as well. They're getting aggroed by Kaldalis as well. All the damage up here is by Kaldalis. I really wish I could show the Kaldalis damage because it is absolutely insane, but you can see the amount of damage here that is being dealt by the AI champions over here. 111,000 damage dealt by AI champions so far. Now Fenix jumping in, and he's going to try and look for these next set of crystals. Unfortunately, the crystals did not spawn over here, so... Oh, there they are. Okay, so the crystals did end up spawning, so Fenix is going to end up clearing that out as well. And we have one crystal on the high ground. And okay, so these are the 3 crystals, 1, 2, and 3 over here. So now Fenix just has to send a few probes to pick these crystals up. And the other issue that needs to be addressed is the fact that there are going to be... I think this area has been cleared, which is fine. So Mojo is on the way. But yeah, I do want to emphasize the importance of being able to reinforce your army. So at the moment, all these shells are sitting over here, and when the unit dies, one of these shells will turn to a champion AI unit. So there are actually a few more crystals here for pickup, so this is going to be good. And there's another crystal over here as well. Let us take a look at the mission. Actually, the mission completion is not going to be showing up at the moment. Right. So unfortunately, I cannot show the mission completion. Let me see if I can pull up the objective area here to just make it a little bit easier. Okay, so we are at 14 out of 20, so we're doing okay here. Unfortunately, because this is played on an arcade map, the completion thing does not work properly. But we have another attack wave now here that has engaged Phoenix's army. Kaldalis is just going to be jumping. Just look at Kaldalis just two-shotting everything. And people thought B2 Phoenix would be bad. But look at Kaldalis. His cleave attack applies to everything, so he's dealing 24 damage cleave. And he's dealing... And that I don't think that also counts the tactical data web damage buff that gets applied. And his buff is able... It applies to every single unit that he attacks with his cleave, so... Really high damage output. Fenix could pretty much do a Kaldalis solo over here and he'd be fine. So, highly recommend you try it out if you have not done so already. Really fun prestige to play. And I think it is slightly better than the P3 Fenix, but you can post your ideas in the comments, what you think about P2 versus P3 Fenix. And now we're just going to be waiting for the next lava surge to go down, and now Fenix has to go looking for the next set of crystals. And very likely these crystals might end up spawning over here. There is a chance that they could spawn on the low ground as well. Sometimes you may get 1, maybe 2 crystals on the low ground, but it's very likely that the next set of crystals will be spawning in this spot over here, in this little area just south of the expansions. Fenix is sending a few probes over here. Yeah, so he has gotten attacked by Amon's forces, so because of that, it means that these crystals have spawned on that spot here. So Fenix is going to be making his way with Kaldalis, Taldaran, Warbringer, Mojo, and Kalarian trailing on the back here. Unfortunately, that probe is also going to end up getting killed. Kaldalis jumped right in and pretty much just ends up cutting through everything like a wood chipper, and he has cut through all these units. Now Fenix has to try and find the rest of the crystals that have spawned. Again, like I said, there's a chance that it may have spawned on the higher ground here. Okay, so there's the next crystal over here. Kalarian is going to go ahead and engage, and Kaldalis is going to jump in. One jump in on Kaldalis, and he pretty much wipes out a quarter of that harass wave. So that is the second crystal that has been picked up. Now Fenix has to find the third one. The third one might be up on this high ground over here. It really depends on where these crystals spawn. They are somewhat random, but there's certain areas on the map that they can spawn. So unfortunately, they are not over here. So where could the crystals spawn? There is a spawn, I think, here on the lower ground. That could happen as well. And now there's an attack where the Fenix has to go and engage. There is a Reaver on the back line here. The Reaver is going to end up taking out Talus. But where is our hero Kaldalis? Kaldalis is nowhere to be seen. But we'll see where this is. One of the things I could do is I could give vision of Amon's forces. You can see where these crystals are. Unfortunately, again, like I said, it is a little bit unfortunate. It doesn't really show too well where these crystals are spawning. And for Amon's forces, it turns out that it's actually not visible at all because it doesn't highlight the crystal, so it is a little bit difficult. Oh, by the way, also, if you do want to know how to get vision of Amon's forces, click an Amon unit and press V. You will have to press and sometimes hold V to get that. So V for Warzone, aka Verizon, you can press that key and it will actually give you vision of Amon's forces. And this works as well for the regular co-op maps as well. Co-op replays, you have to find an Amon unit and press and hold V. One thing to note is that if that unit gets killed, you will lose the vision. So generally what I like to do is click an Amon unit, get vision of Amon's base, and I click a structure inside Amon's base so that there is no chance or very low chance that that unit actually gets killed off, and then you can maintain vision of Amon's forces. So we now have, I think there was something over here. There might have been an attack wave on the way. Fenix is still looking for these crystals. This is one of the more frustrating things, is just trying to find these crystals. And Galdarn, unfortunately, nowhere to be seen. So you can see how much slower Fenix is when it comes to trying to clear these enemy forces. And now Fenix is just sending probes all across the map, trying to find these crystals. And okay, there's one here right on the low ground. So Phoenix is gonna get ready to engage here. Taldaran and Galarian probably not going to be enough. I think Dallas is joining in right now, so Dallas will be able to help as well. Phoenix using his Praetor armor as well to clear that out. I think that might be the last crystal as well that is necessary for Phoenix to pick up. Yeah, he's getting a 19 out of 20. Lava Surge is coming up right now, so Phoenix is going to be sending that probe in. He's going to be moving to the high ground, and that should be okay as well. I don't know if this probe will be able to make it, and he's not going to be taking any risks. So yeah, that is the last crystal that needs to be deposited. Plenty of time as well, and no chances that Phoenix is going to end up screwing this up. But take a look at the damage that's been dealt by the AI champions here. 146,000 damage over here. And this is being slowed by Time Warp as well. But this probe really doesn't mind. He is just waiting to deposit this final crystal into the environmental stabilizer. And all the Phoenix has to do now is just wait in the middle of this map and be okay here. So there we go. That is that last crystal deposited into the environmental stabilizer. The Dominion's allies are victorious, and Viridia Prime has been saved, and that is GG.